And what is your opinion on the genocide of Armenians, which was the first in 20th century?
Well, actually, I was in Turkey about a year ago to give the memorial lecture for Hrant Dink, the Turkish-Armenian journalist who exposed the Armenian massacres. And I mean, it was a huge atrocity, no question about that. A very complex one. So the first time I was in Turkey, for example, was around 2000. And I was there to support Kurdish rights. I was there for a trial and so on. And among other things, I went to Diyarbakir, where the Kurds had just been subjected to really horrible atrocities in Turkey right through the 90s. It was awful. And this was kind of the tail end of it. And I was taken in Diyarbakir by Kurdish friends I asked to visit the Armenian quarter. Diyarbakir was the place where the final massacres took place, mostly by Kurds. And the internal psychological conflicts are hard to describe. They themselves were just barely emerging from major slaughters, incidentally backed by the United States, which provided about 80% of the arms. And here they were I was asking them to show me the remnants of a massacre in which they were among the major perpetrators, the final, almost, I hate to use the words, but almost a final solution for the Armenians in Turkey. Well, they took me. There was an old church, one church, falling apart, no roof, pieces, total wreck, but remnants of the building were there. I asked if anyone had collected the relics, and they were uncomfortable about it. They took me to a little store nearby, a small store, where there was an Armenian man, roughly my age, who had collected relics from the church. And that was about the remnants of the Armenian community in Diyarbakir. I mean,
which was Armenian Tigran Kurd.
I was there last year for the Hrant Dink lecture. Very substantial change. The church had been rebuilt, reconstituted. There's at the Hrant Dink Memorial, there were probably hundreds of thousands of people demonstrating, big march through Istanbul, supporting, bringing up the truth about the Armenian massacres. The police didn't interfere. It was too big a demonstration to interfere with. The final, it ended at the publishing house where Hrant Dink worked and where he was assassinated, and his wife, his widow, was there. I was there, and there was a big crowd, talks and so on. It's an enormous change, and a positive one. So
on that note, sir,
it was a terrible atrocity, but there's now the beginnings of coming to terms with it. It's not easy. Other countries have similar problems. I mentioned before that the support for Israel is primarily from the Anglosphere. Think about the Anglosphere for a minute. What makes those countries similar? The United States, Australia, and Canada. These are settler colonial societies. Societies where the English colonists came and virtually exterminated the indigenous population. All of them. Not everybody, but horrible atrocities. Have we come to terms with? Why might this be related to support for Israel? Well, I don't think it's hard to figure out, especially when you recognize that these are extremely religious societies with extreme fundamentalist religious elements which take a literalist interpretation of the Bible. You put all that together and it's a cultural fact over and above the geopolitical facts that lie behind this. Have these societies come to terms with their extermination of the indigenous population? It's a long time. It hasn't happened. Have they come to terms with the legacy of slavery, which is still alive, remember? You look at the number of black males in prison. That's the legacy of slavery, 500 years. Have they come to terms with it? No. Turkey is beginning to come to terms with a major crime. And I think that should be applauded and supported, but without taking a superior stance. There are very few countries that don't have something to look back on.
Thank you very much, sir.